Hello and welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso, and before I begin, let me say please hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. If you like the video, please push like, I'm sorry. I kind of got lost there. That helps in YouTube land. I just found that out recently. Also, since my last video, I have more than 160 or 170 new subscribers. And I'm assuming most of you came from the interview that I did with Jeff over at the sit down. And I hope I don't disappoint. I was really happy with that interview. I look forward to working with Jeff in the future. And also, because of that interview, 2 more people have reached out to me for other interviews, and I have another one lined up. So there will be about another 3 interviews or so this week with different YouTube channels and a podcast. So please welcome for those of you that came by way of the sit down. And like I said, I hope I don't disappoint. So when I left off last time, or 2 videos ago, I talked about doing a piece called When Fat Dixon Stabbed Rags. That's what I'm going to do tonight. I actually wrote this story for Guerrilla Convict back in the day, and I had to go over it a little bit. This is when I first started writing, and I brought back memories. Anyway, so this took place at Leavenworth in 2001. At the time, I had just got patched up Dirty White Boy. And matter of fact, if I remember correctly, my ink probably wasn't even dry, meaning I just got my patch. And I was, on this day, the only dirty white boy in the block. So here's how it went down. I was laying in my cell in an opiate stupor, like I did most mornings. I used a lot of heroin back then. Most mornings were either moonshine or heroin, and especially around that time. And I was laying down, and I went back, like I said, and I read what I wrote, and sure enough, I remember that I was kind of floating around thinking about, if I was on the street watching my daughter play softball, and all of a sudden, somebody ran into my cell door. Now, normally, you get a fast knock or something like that. This door comes flying open, and I'm still kind of, in that nod, and it was a guy by the name of Rock. Rock was in his 50s from Boston, a total wino. And anybody who's there at Leavenworth during that time knows exactly. Not talking about Rock Bledsoe, whatever. Rock from Boston. Yeah, you guys know who I'm talking about. So anyway, and I don't think he would mind me calling him a wino at all. It's what he was at the time. So Rock comes running in, and he's like, Rob. And I'm like, what's going on? What you should have doctors, And he's like, Rags just got stabbed. Now Rags. Charles Robinson. 40-year-old guy, looked like he was in his 20s at the time, from Indiana, had a tattoo that said "Suffer" across his neck, carrot top, bright blue eyes. What a character Rags was. He became a pretty good friend, but I mean, just a real character. He was a mouthy little SOB too, so it wasn't surprising. What was surprising is when I found out, when Rock informed me who did it, and that was a black guy from Virginia that everybody, including himself, called Fat Dixon. So I don't mean to offend heavyset people like myself, called big people now, not fat. So I don't mean to upset or offend. That's what he called himself, so I'm going to go with Fat Dixon. When I found out that it was Fat Dixon, there was like an oh shit. Dixon's black, Rags is white. So the first thing, as I got my bearings, now I was in my pants, or boxers or pants, didn't have shoes on, didn't have a shirt on. So I go and I jump in my boots with no socks, reach in my locker, grab 2 grams of heroin that I had, gave it to Rock, and I said, hold this. If I go to the hole, make sure I get it. So we have our way of getting contraband out of the hole. Somebody can catch a shot and go over there and deliver. Of course, Rock asked me if he could have some as I was running, and yeah, And I gave him some, told him to take some after. And I also asked him what white guys were in the block. And he named 3, 4, counting a couple older guys that were never going to do anything. And this was at between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. And a lot of guys go out to rec during that time, and that's where all the white guys were, including the one that would help me the most, which was Big Jerry Benham. And I knew there was a problem. So when he told me who was in the block, the white guys, I just said, oh, fuck. So, put on my boots and my shirt in my hand, I scramble out the door, no shirt on, walking down the tier, and I see black guys posted up everywhere. I was, what cell was I in at the time? I was in cell 248. So, no, I was in cell around 263. So I had to come around, went down to 248, and then as I was walking, all I see were different. So I saw black guys from Florida, Crips, Bloods. It's like not one black guy went to rec, it seemed like. Again, Dixon was from Virginia. He was in the Virginia car, but he wasn't a gang member. I hurried up to cell 248, where Rags was. Rock told me Rags would be, and a guy named Mike Janak cell. As I went to open the door, it was locked, and I threw a fit. So I look in this door. Now let me explain. Every morning, 6 o'clock or 5:30, the doors rack. When the doors open, they're open. Now, we put magnets in the door so you can't shut them closed. If you do shut them closed, the cop has to open it. So when I realized that the door was locked, I assumed that Rags had closed the door and locked them in. And I started saying, you pussy motherfucker, blah, 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 you know. So I know some people that don't understand prison might think that would be a smart move for him to lock himself in, especially with a bunch of black guys, not many white guys, but in the world of prison, that's a coward move. You can't do that, okay? Especially if you're running white. Well, Rags yelled back at me, motherfucker, I didn't lock my door. He said, Dixon shut it. So I was like, huh? And he says, he stabbed me and then he shut the door. And I'm like, let me see. So he shows me where he got stabbed, and what he did was he got nicked. It was a good nick, but it was a lot of plasma leaking. And I said, oh, you didn't even get stabbed. You got nicked. And Rags was irate. I mean, he was coming on, get this door open. Go get the man. Go get the cop. Get this door open. I'm going to go kill him. I'm going to kill him. I said, man, you ain't killing nothing. He was yelling, I'm going to kill that N-word. And I said, shut your fucking mouth. There is no white guys in here, dude. There is none. There's only a few of us. He didn't care, and he was yelling N-word this and N-word that. And I was like, oh my God. So, back up. Sorry, I was telling the story about it already. Before I left the cell, I did tell Rock. I asked Rock if he had a knife. I did not. I was caught slipping. So I asked him to please go upstairs. I was going to be lower if the door was open, to sneak upstairs and tell some of my brothers that were upstairs to please send knives down or get your ass downstairs, because this could be a problem. Well, remember, I didn't have my shirt on. And remember, there was black guys posted up everywhere, and they were all eyes were on me. By no means did I run the block, or was I like, I just was in a white gang. I did run the poker table. The only white poker tables in most units at that time were dirty white boy tables, meaning we owned the tables per se, and if you wanted to run a game, we got 50% of the cut, and for 50% we would make sure you got your money, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, yes, I know there's a lot of guys that have problems with it, but that's how prison works. So again, I wasn't nobody. I was nobody at that time whatsoever. Just a guy who just got tipped up in a gang, but by not a big shot in the block, not a tough guy, nothing like that. Didn't know a lot of guys, did know all the shot callers, did associate with them, did a lot of drug deals with them, stuff like that. So I was well known on the block that way, but not as some, muscle or, anyway, so I had to go get the cop to open the door. So I had to calm down Rags because he was irate and he was yelling, and I finally got him to stop saying the N-word. And I said, what are you trying to do? He says, I'm trying to kill him. So I'm like, oh man, I'm watching. And I see a friend, and the guy's name is Fast Black. So I go to approach Fast Black, smoking a cigarette. Fast Black's from Florida. And I said, what's up, man? He's like, what's up, Rob? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's what he said after every sentence. And I'm like, man, so what's up? And he says, my dude hit yours. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, my dude put that work in. He had to do that. And I'm like, you just can't go stabbing white dudes like that. I mean, somebody can just, and then he said, Rags called my dude, Fat Dixon, an N-word. Didn't know the circumstances surrounding it, but that's what it was about. Okay, so now I'm like, oh fuck, you just don't do that. You just can't do that. So now I'm like, all right, so what are we doing here? He's like, well, what do you mean, what are we doing? My dude already did it. I'm like, so my dude, you hear him in there running his mouth, and Fast Black laughed because everybody knew Rags is a little mouthy. It's like a little chihuahua kind of guy. And he said, yeah, and he had nothing against Rags either. And he said, yes. He said, okay, so what are we trying to do? And he said, man, my dude already did it. What's up? And I said, well, my dude wants to go again. He's like, shit, man, I'll go talk to him. But, and he told me, watch your step, Rob. And he was looking out for me, saying, watch your move, watch what you do here, because you're a white guy. There's only a handful. This block's full of black guys, and they're all watching you right now. Also, I had my shirt off, so you can tell my boots were sloppy. You can tell I didn't even have socks on, so you can tell I didn't have a knife. Okay, not a good situation to be in. Well, I got the door open, went and opened the door. Of course, Fast Black, a couple of black guys said, nobody's going to storm Rags. They were, as far as they were concerned, Dixon did what he had to do, and they were just making sure that Rags wasn't going to do nothing stupid. Rags wanted to fight Dixon, and he wanted to fight him any way he possibly could. Knives, no knives. Dixon did not want to fight. Now, I know Dixon. Dixon was soft, okay? He had 3 life sentences. He was a crack dealer, big crack dealer. He wasn't a fighter and would tell you so. As a matter of fact, I approached Dixon alone and I said, what are you trying to do? And he said, man, Rob, I'm gonna tell you, I didn't want to do nothing. Rags called me N-word and people heard. If nobody heard, I wouldn't even did nothing. So he was pressured into doing something. Then it made sense. Okay. And I said, Dixon, Rag wants to fight. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to fight with hands. He didn't want to fight nothing. And I was like, oh shit. So now I had a problem. Now we got white guys coming in from rec. Big Jerry came in. No, Big Jerry stayed out. And Big Jerry's one of the biggest white guys in the feds and was a good friend of mine at the time. And I needed his backup big time. He didn't come in. So now everybody's getting wind of the story. Well, I was able to push it off an hour and a half, 2 hours, until I went to chow. I needed to talk to my brothers, meaning other dirty white boys. Why? This was a white issue in B block, but I'm a gang member. So Braggs isn't a gang member, but it's still a white issue. We're a white gang. We're supposed to protect white guys. And I know some of you guys are laughing because I know about the dirty white boys. Anyway, so went to chow. It was TC, Youngster, Rob Hutzel, No Nose Rick, and a prospect named Danny Wakeman. Go to the table and I'm, hostile. Hey, what's up? And like, man, Rags just, and I told TC was from Indiana. I said, your homeboy just got stabbed, blah, blah, blah. And Rick said, that dude Rags? Fuck that dude Rags. Now, I should say that No Nose Rick and I did not get along at all. So he didn't care for me. From the day I got my patch, we didn't really care for one another. So they asked me what I expected them to do. And I said, I need backup. What are we going to do here? I explained the situation. Rags wants to go fight. Dixon doesn't want to, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, Dixon doesn't want to. There ain't nothing going down. And I said, you don't understand. Rags is going to go. Well, if Rags is going to go, you better go hit Rags. So then it came, Rick No-Nose says, you go in there right now and you hit Rags. And I'm like, what? What do you mean go hit Rags? That's my friend. No. He's causing problems. Go smash him. That way we solve it. We're good with the black dudes. I'm like, good with the black dudes? That happens too much. You get white prison gangs, and instead of doing something, instead of having racial issues, they always hit their own, hit other white guys. And I wasn't going for it. Rob Hutzel, who I didn't get along with too much either at the time, said something smart like, yeah, we're not going down there for that lane. Fuck you, go handle that. That's your block. So TC and Youngster, as I was walking out, said, hey bro, we got your back. What do you need? And I said, I need knives. Get me some fucking knives. Get knives down there, because this is going to jump off. This is going to go bad. I can tell by the feeling that it was going to go bad. Rags was at least going to creep Dixon when he could. He was going to sneak up. He wasn't going to let it go, and we were outnumbered heavily. I go back in the block. Now I end up picking up some knives. TC and Youngster eventually made it down, although it took them a little while. And we finally got it with Fast Black, old man Wade, that's a black dude. I was the only white rep talking it out. Jerry finally came in. He let me do it, stood back on it because of my gang affiliation, even though he was associate of ours. So what we did was we finally got them to agree on fighting. No knives. For a minute, it was going to be knives. And we had knives, and we were going to give them knives, and they were going to go. Now, this didn't just happen, boom, boom, boom. This happened over hours. The politicking of this took way too long, by the way, way too long. When something usually stretches this long, A, it either doesn't happen, or B, it's usually a clusterfuck. If you ever go to prison and you get yourself involved in prison politics and you get an incident for fighting, try to get it done as soon as possible, because if not, your whole day is consumed by it. You want to get it over with. A little side note. So it wasn't until 2:30 or 3 o'clock when Unicor was coming in till this thing actually took place. By that time, the entire yard knew what was going on, and there was at least 300 black guys alone in that unit. And what they did is we had them go fight in the Mexican TV room, Spanish TV room. I think that was just a Mexican. Anyway, and that was upstairs and below, all the way in the back. And this is how we did it. Fast Black shook Rags down to make sure Rags had no weapons on him, and I shook Dixon down. Yeah, we pat him down, didn't strip search him, but that was to make sure somebody, when they were fighting, didn't pull out a knife and make it worse. They go in there, and it is just, I remember looking back, it's me and Fast Black at the doorway, and I was excited now, you know. Now, Dixon, over 300 pounds, over 6 foot. Rags, 140 pounds, 150 pounds soaking wet. 5'7", skinny, strung out most of the time. So you got a little guy against a big guy, a little white guy against a big guy. Rags looked, the feel was that he was pumped, ready to go, and excited to be going. Dixon looked scared. I'm not gonna, he really did. Remember looking at Black, Black's my friend, and we're kind of just both kind of grinned at each other. I remember turning around and looking, and just the entire unit, just crowd packed with people that couldn't even see. There was whites and blacks all posted up because this could have possibly been a racial war. The two get in there, and let me tell you something. Let me see if I can get this. I'm telling you, that little son of a bitch Rags, he was throwing 20 punches a second. It was just, he was fighting for his life, trying to bring, the problem is they looked like mosquito bites. Dixon was all kind of just defending himself, but you can tell it wasn't hurting him. It was embarrassing him. He didn't like the feeling of it, but it wasn't hurting him, like, you know, at the beginning. And and there was people laughing. The black guys were yelling, you bitch ass, and you better get in there and hit that cracker. So some of the black guys were getting mad. Rags got so tired and so that he actually stepped back and took away, rested, and then got back in it. Dixon got a couple punches, but in the end, Rags warmed down. Dixon went down, and Rags got Dixon down, and Dixon tapped out. When he tapped out, there was just raw anger amongst some of the black dudes. They were pissed to see this little white guy take this big black dude down. And Rags was talking shit, which he almost got hurt for later, not by me, by somebody else, because he wouldn't. That's right, you bitch ass, did it? He didn't say the N-word. That's right, you bitch ass motherfucker. We're like, calm down, that's enough. You know, this dude's gonna cause us some problems. It actually stopped because Dixon went down and said he was gonna, he didn't want no more. Fast Black was saying, no, you keep going, Rags. Like, he was encouraging Rags to keep going, and he was actually mad at Dixon. Now, there was a staff member, man walking. Somebody go, man walking, that means cops coming, and that's what stopped it, and everybody broke up. So, everybody splits. Dixon walks out, and it was gonna be count time. And I lived close to Dixon, so I went down there. Dixon was my friend too. We were friends, you know. Again, that life sentence thing, we used to talk a lot. We were neighbors for a while. And he was in his cell. He had a little bit of blood on him, not too much. And he looked scared. And I said, man, you all right? He says, fuck no, I ain't all right, Rob. I said, man, look, that shit's over. He goes, man, this shit's just beginning, Rob. They're gonna kill me. I'm like, what? He said, man, they told me if I lose that white boy, they're gonna kill me. They're gonna hurt me, Rob. After count, Dixon got stabbed for losing to a white guy. And that's the story of when Fat Dixon stabbed Rags. I'll have more Rags stories coming in the Leavenworth series. Maybe that's what I'll call it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was a 22-minute, it looks like. You know, it's past 9 o'clock, and the truth is I had a whole different segment planned for today with a taped interview that didn't work out. Then I had some other things that happened not related to YouTube, and I almost didn't post content right now. And I had a couple friends that reached out to me and said, Rob, you got too many new subscribers. You gotta stay consistent, bro. I understand that. It's something that you don't know, and I'm not trying to use this as an excuse. My dad just passed away recently. Hasn't been laid to rest yet. Family coming in, a lot of things going on. But I will be consistent. I will respect you subscribers. Okay, that's my promise. If I don't, I'll at least put something out. But this is going to get better. I've always been saying since I started, it's going to get more professional as far as the editing. We had some editing down. My wife was going to do it. Somebody brought some other editing thing up to us. We'll get it. I just want to keep putting content out there. I hope you enjoy, and I hope I get better at the I know I do it. I listen to myself most of the time, and it bothers me too. I'm gonna get better in time, especially when my podcast starts rolling. Take care. Thanks again.